Good afternoon, Nevis. Good afternoon, St. Kitts, and good afternoon to the entire Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, my name is Alexis Jeffers, and I'm here once again for another edition of On Point for today, the first day of September 2023. While I'm at that, let me greet all of our listeners down there in the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, St. Martin, French and Dutch St. Martin, that is, Statia Sabre, the whole of the United States, from the eastern seaboard all the way over to the western seaboard, and of course Canada, while I'm in that region, and also let me shout up all of the folks in Europe who continue to follow us. In the UK, of course, we have persons who have been calling and saying that they are logged on generally to all of the platforms that this show is being broadcast. For example, YouTube, Facebook, and the like. And indeed, over in Asia, we always have to touch on our citizens who are there, whether studying, living there, working there. We have to greet them as well. It's early morning there. And I say welcome one and all. It is indeed my pleasure being here this afternoon once again. And of course, I am committed, as I've always said, to come here and spend this hour with the listeners and viewers of this particular program and this station as well, because we know Von Radio is one of the most widely listened to radio station here in the sub-region. And of course, Von Radio has continued to make its mark in terms of the type of broadcasting, clean and wholesome for the entire family, of course. And anyone who wants to hear something clean and decent, you tune into Von Radio, because over the last 30 plus years, that is what they have done here. And I congratulate them for sure. At this point in time, usually quickly we would address some of the social issues in terms of birthdays and persons who would have gone on to the great beyond. And at this point, I want to express my sympathies to the entire family, and also, let me say, the entire Univision public on the passing of former matron, Mrs. Aldris Diaz. Well, she would have passed earlier this week, and all of us know and would have interacted with Mrs. Diaz at some point or the other, even as a nurse, and then later on as she was the one who managed the nursing staff there at the Alexandra Hospital. Aldris, of course, is the sister of former classmate of mine and friend of mine, Gary Pemberton, and of course Alsted Pemberton, who would have taught me biology over there at the Gingerland Secondary School. So at least I know quite a number of the family members, and I can't name all of them at this point in time, but those two would have come to mind since when I entered the Gingerland Secondary School. There was Gary Pemberton, and of course I believe at that point in time or later on, Mr. or Teacher Pemberton or Alsted Pemberton would have come along sometime after, I believe, and was teaching biology. But of course we know the exploits of Aldris over the last 30 plus 40 years, whatever the case might be. She would have been in the nursing profession and rendered that special care and that special touch to everyone who she would have interacted with, the young, the old, the not so old. And she had the real nursing spirit and that heart of a nurse, like Florence Nightingale, they said. She would have had that kind of touch. And sometimes you interact with a nurse and you have a pain somewhere, and by the time the nurse touch that area, the pain is gone, and perhaps when you're out of their company, the pain comes back. But that is the touch of a genuine soul, and someone who would have worked with immense profession. And I want to say how saddened we are by the passing of Aldris. But of course, as I've always said, that life is like that, meaning you have phases in life that you go through. You're born, you live, and you die, and it's always that last phase which is the most difficult and the most painful. And of course, at this time, we would want to lift the family up and ask them to turn to God and ask for His divine intervention and protection and His, His gentle touch on the entire family, so that you can go through these difficult times that you're facing here and now. There are other persons who would have had, deaths in their families. I want to just express my sympathies to all of the grieving families throughout the entire island of Nevis, and of course the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, because when you lose someone, that is an asset, a certain type of resource that you would miss, or that would no longer be with us. And indeed, I just want to tell us all to embrace all of the good thoughts and all of the legacy that have been left behind. We see how we can use that to our advantage moving forward, of course. And so my sympathies and condolences to all of the grieving families, and of course in the future when the funeral services will be held, we can all go out and lend our support, because the support is really for the deceased, but more so for the surviving family, so that we can show them that we do care. At this time, on a more positive note, I want to say happy birthday to all who are celebrating at this time. I know earlier this week, my good friend, and I can say that publicly, my good friend Everett Weber Herbert would have celebrated a birthday, and everybody's guessing about Weber's age. A man is as good as he feels, or as young as he feels, yeah? And I know Weber would tell everybody, well, he's a young man, still growing up, so to speak. But Weber, I want to say, it was indeed my pleasure being here to celebrate a portion of the day with you. And indeed, we were all here, a number of us who are considered to be his close friends. And with that, I want to thank Rodney Elliott for the kind gesture. At least she had me on the list to invite me, and that was good of you, Rodney. And the food and the finger food and so forth that you prepared were very nice, consistent with what you normally do there at Rodney's Cuisine. I want to say how happy I am to recognize Mr. Herbert at this point in time. He's someone I've known for many years, and that's a man who walks and imparts wisdom, and he has wisdom walking around with him everywhere he goes. And sometimes he don't tell you exactly what he want to say, but like they say, pick sense out of whatever it is. Yeah, it's not nonsense, but pick sense out of what he says, or fill in the blanks, so to speak. And he has been someone who I've been able to lean on, and of course I know he'll lean on me too, because it's a two-way street. And I'm sure when he interact with me, he gets something to walk away with, just as I do when I interact with him. So Weber, we are expressing belated birthday to you, but of course, a man of your stature, we'll say you'll be celebrating for some time to come, because every day from here on in is a blessing, and I want you to continue to enjoy what is there to be enjoyed. But God bless you, and may you live to see many, many more. And I'll continue to be your friend if you allow me to, because it's certainly a privilege, of course. And I thank you and congratulate you on such a milestone. Speaking about congratulations, I want to congratulate all of the new principals that have been assigned to the various schools. I know up in my area, up in the constituency of St. James, we have 2 new principals up there. Up at St. James, we have Miss Catherine Seabrooks, very young lady, just coming back from university, but of course before she left, she was a school teacher, of course. So she's getting back into the education system, this time with more knowledge, and this time with more vim, vigor, and vitality, as they say, because when you are, given these responsibilities, I'm sure someone of her stature have told herself she's going to grab this opportunity with both hands and run with it and make sure that she can make an impression that is long-lasting. Now, she will be there at St. James Primary School. It is a small school, yes. It is a school that we have sought to maintain as one of the primary schools here on the island of Nevis. What I want to say to Catherine, small, it therefore means that you can certainly get some results out of that school. We have seen over the last couple of years that there is talent at that school. We have performed well in football, we have performed well in academics, and indeed talent pool is small there, yes, but out of those children you can get the best out of them, and I'm certain that you have the temperament and you have what it takes to ensure that we can get the best of our children and ensure we're preparing them for the future to come. Same thing down at the VOJ Primary School. We have a new head teacher there in the person of Miss Alexis Jeffers. Alexis, of course, was at the St. James Primary School as the deputy principal for some time. So she's now being promoted to the position of principal of that school, and I know Alexis well. And Alexis is someone who is smart, someone who believes in being complete in what she does, and she's someone who have demonstrated that she has the leadership abilities and qualities, and I know she would bring that to bear on the VOJ Primary School. That school is a little bit bigger than the school up there at St. James, and that school has also been performing well, meaning in recent months they would have won the cricket tournament. It's a primary school cricket tournament, and they did so by defeating the largest school in Nevis, which is the Charlestown Primary School. And for a small school to come into Grove Park, or E.T. Willett Park, sorry, and demonstrated that they had the talent, the skills, and all that is necessary to win. When they would have done that, I was immensely proud, and the whole of St. James was proud of this particular school's VOJ Primary School. So they have also excelled in academics and other areas, and it is a platform or foundation upon which some additional building can be done to get more out of those children, more out of the school, and demonstrate to the whole of Nevis that indeed size does not matter at all. But size can be of advantage to any particular institution. If you have a small school, then you should be able to get more out of those children. So I am saying that we expect good things out of both ladies up there in St. James. And while I'm at that, let me also recognize, what's her name, Mrs. Jerose Walters down there at the St. Thomas Primary School. That school is also in Nevis 11, and of course I am the current elected representative of Nevis 11, so that school also gets support from myself when I can, and so I want to also give my word of encouragement to Jerose and say to you that you also were selected because of the talent and the capabilities that have been seen in you. And I know the community down there in St. Thomas Parish also know that you are capable of managing that school and also bringing about additional success stories for the St. Thomas Primary School. From time to time, that school have performed well at athletics, academics, and everything. So we expect nothing less from your intervention here and your hard work that you will bring to bear on that school, Jerose, and I am certain that you'll continue to get the support of all who have been supporting the school over the years, including those at the Ministry and Department of Education, of course. For some reason, Mrs. Paris there at Charlestown Primary School, I forgot her first name, but she's also, Mrs. Paris is now the new head principal or head teacher at Nicola. Okay, thank you. Yes, Mrs. Nicola Paris is now the new principal there at Charlestown Secondary School. When I went to Charlestown Secondary School for just 2 years, I never really embraced the school to the extent, because remember, I started up there at Gingerland Secondary School, where I spent at least 5 years or whatever about the time I spent up there, then came down for 2 years down at Charlestown Secondary School. But I know when I was there, I was one of the top athletes, because, you know, when it come to the 200 and 400 meters, I left my little mark there where I represented Charlestown Secondary School at the what do you call it, the high school championships down there in St. Kitts. That time it was held at the Bastier High School grounds. But anyway, Nicola, I wish you every success there at Charlestown. It will be a challenge, of course, because it's a larger school, and children these days are of a different temperament, and sometimes, you know, one can get frustrated with the way children behave, but I'm sure you would want to ensure that you're working towards bringing some harmony, bringing the best out of those children in terms of speaking to them and let them know that, listen, the future is theirs. and they're the ones who will determine the future of the island of Nevis. Whatever pathway they choose is what will end up becoming of this island. And we know that Nevis is a nice place. Nevis is nice, they say. Beautiful place, wonderful place. Many persons come here and don't want to return to their original country. So there is something here that tells me that Nevis is one of the best places here in the region and perhaps in the world. And of course, every country and island have their different qualities and characteristics. And that is why I say we can speak with authority about Nevis because the characteristics and the amenities you find here are second to none. So we say Nevis is nice and Nevis is the best place on earth. And Charleston Secondary School will ensure that we are producing children that are fit for purpose, children that are looking towards the future to ensure that we're building an island and leaving a legacy that who comes after us, who comes after those same children up there, will meet an island that is in a very good shape, and they in turn will also carry on the legacies as well in terms of making sure that this island continues to be a sought after island, a champion island, and an island that we can all be proud of. So all the best to these four ladies, and of course their new deputy principals at these various schools. I don't have those names now, but all of you who have been recognized and who have already been assigned those positions, I say to you, you have some work to do. Continue to lend support to the principal, lend support to the school, and indeed with the collective effort and the part of everyone, we should see some success, of course. But ladies and gentlemen, in terms of Nevis, we know that Nevis is currently experiencing some rather hot days. We just had some showers, of course, and from what all the reports that we have been seeing and hearing is that this heat wave or these particular weather conditions pattern will continue for a few more months, probably a month or two more. We know we are still in the hurricane season. There have been hurricanes swirling all around us and have been missing us thus far, and we are happy for that, and we continue to ask for God's protection. And in times of tranquility, we still have to pray and hope that when the time comes, we are spared as much as possible. But of course, hurricanes have been affecting Florida, parts of Florida, and indeed Bermuda, I believe, have had some weather conditions that they've been dealing with over the last couple of days. And I wish them well, but I also continue to say that we also continue to pray that we are spared any major challenges during this particular year, and indeed continue to stay on guard, I will say. That being said, I want to say that, of course, I've been accosted many a times over the last couple of days, and persons have been saying, oh, I've been hearing lots of stories about Alexis Jeffers and all kind of things. Go on the radio and defend yourself. I said to you, the people of Nevis last week, that any defense to anything that is out there will be done down at the Theodore Hobson QC building. And if you don't know what I'm talking about the courthouse down in Charlestown. I don't have a thing to say here on Von Radio, because I said from the onset, Von Radio believes in wholesome family, and we believe in producing quality programming here on Von Radio. And what you hear elsewhere, you will never hear it here on Von Radio, because I know for sure the management will pull the plug when I go down a certain road, and I will not engage in that, because as institutions such as Von Radio will not survive 30 plus years if they were not doing something right. And if they're doing something right, who am I to come here and mess it up? And perhaps that is why some people can't come on these airwaves, because I myself will stay home and call and say, listen, get off, because you're not talking the language that Von Radio is known for in terms of the consistency of quality programming. So, listen, letters are flying around, and who get letter will deal with letters accordingly. And I know for sure I am ready any day to go down to the Theodore Hobson QC building to not only defend myself, to hear what defense they'll come up with. Because when you accuse someone of something, you must have the FACTS, and that spells facts. And the courthouse don't deal with isms and schisms. You could say what you want elsewhere, You could go down on Charlestown Pier and say all you want. You could go up on Nevis Peak and accuse anybody of anything and say it is indisputable fact. You bring your facts down to the Theodore Hobson building and put the facts on the table there and let a judge decide. Because when it's all said and done, that is where the law is applied to everything that we say, and the law will speak for itself when the time comes. So I don't intend to get caught up. All I'll say to the people of Nevis, there are some bullies in this place. Whether they are bullies on Facebook, bullies on radio, bullies in the street, or bullies elsewhere, there are bullies in this place, and it seems as though their MO is to shut up or shut down those who are willing to go out there and stand up and fight for the people of Nevis. They come in there, this guy saying they're fighting for you. You think they're fighting for you? Fighting for themselves. Because when you listen to them, you understand that what they're saying has nothing to do with the overall development of the people of Nevis and the island of Nevis. So when I say I'm standing up, listen, I will neither bend, buckle, nor bow to anyone out there and what they have to say, because listen, I was born here. My navel string was buried right here on the island of Nevis. I love Nevis just as much as the other person, and if they tell me they love it more than me, I'll tell you I love it more than you, and then it will be a back and forth until there's no end. Yeah, and that is all I have to say. But I'm ready for any fight, because I came here a couple of months ago and started this program, and I figure that much, that once I start to talk, because I've been quiet for a while, you know, for almost 10 years, I kept my mouth shut and went and worked for the people. I've done so many things up and down the island of Nevis, and we'll articulate those as time go by, yeah? But I've done so much for the island of Nevis, made my mark here on the island of Nevis, and those who keep talking and failing at whatever they do, all they keep doing is coming after Alexis Jeffers. But I don't care. And why I say I don't care? And the Premier said something which was profound the other day, you know? He don't care either. Because he say when he leave here, he go home to where he live, and he go home to who he got home, right? And he don't see none of them who talking. The same thing, I go home and I go to where I live, and I don't see anyone there. So when I go there, I feel comfortable in my space, and I really don't care what people have to say, in the sense that if you say anything about me, talk the truth. Just talk the truth. But if you say anything that is not true, we'll deal with that accordingly. We'll deal with that accordingly. But if you don't have anything to show the island of Nevis, of course, and you are a failure in your life, all you'll try to do is to create an impression that you're trying to bring failure to the public about someone else's actions and activities. But the evidence speaks for itself, and that is all I'm going to say. So I came here last week, and the week before, and started talking about lands, and I said, and I can say it again, that when it comes to matters pertaining to lands, Alexis Jeffers can stand up any day and stand the test here on the island of Nevis. Because I've done so much to transform the island of Nevis in terms of land acquisition, land ownership, home ownership, in agriculture, in all of the various ministries that I've had a chance to manage. My impact is there to see. And you know, the other day I was driving across Long Point, and I look at Long Point. I just came from down by the Malcolm Gishard Park as well. I went down to grab a drink. And when I was sitting down under the trees down there at Malcolm Gishard Park, I sat there and I watched the visitor center. I look around, nicely manicured lawn and beautiful trees. And you know, I said to myself, God bless his soul, but God bless Malcolm Gishard, because he was the one who ensured that that 14 acre of lands was held back for the benefit of the people of Nevis. I don't know what NRP had plans for it, because I know they didn't do a thing with it, but I'm so glad the people of Nevis got rid of them in 2013 so that they don't take it up and do as they like with it. We had a plan for it, and a plan was executed, and as such I have to thank the Republic of China, Taiwan, and the local Ambassador Michael Lin, and the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, the Cabinet of the Nevis Island Administration, all who had something to do with the establishment of that Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park. Beautiful park. And when I look at it, I say it's a good thing that we were able to put those lands to beautiful, excellent, and good use. And I look further down the property, and you see those bars down at Penny's, you know, Sunshines, Randy, what's his name, Weekends, Big John and his colleague there, his friend there, Laverne, all of the bars down there. And I want to say to the people of Nevis, when I became the Minister of Lands, not one of them had any lease, was paying any rent, had no entitlement, no ownership, no connection in terms of legal connection, that is, to those lands. And I said, listen, guys, we're all Nevisians. And I love what you're doing, but you have to ensure that you have that paper in your hand. Piece of paper, so no one can come along and bulldoze you, push you out of there. So I said to them, each one of you must acquire a lease. Come and sit down with us. Let's get a lease going. So that when it's all said and done, you have a lease for 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case might be. You have an establishment. That is where comfort and peace of mind comes in. So every single one of them down there have a piece of paper by way of a lease, whether it's for 5 years or 10 years, for those lands down there. And that was as a result of Alexis Jeffers and the Nevis Island administration, led by the Concerned Citizens Movement, seeing what it means to own something, what it means to have entitlement to something. We didn't go down there and bulldoze nobody and say, listen, we're going to get you off the land to give to somebody else. Who were there? We told them, come in, get your title, not your title, but your lease. And so Sunshine has his lease, Randy has his lease, Weekends have their lease, everybody down there have their lease, thanks to the Nevis Island administration. But for those 6.5 years when the API was there, when they were taking away people's lands, they didn't see the urgent need to empower Nevisians to own their, not own, but at least have entitlement to their piece of land. And that's why I'm happy for everyone down there. I look at it and I say, listen, we have a team in the CCM that have always looked out for the people of Nevis. And that exemplifies what I'm saying in terms of the people of Nevis having that connection to the space that they were allotted. And they have that legal authority to be there. So I said here, and it looked like he really burned a couple of people, boy, burned them bad. When I talked about taking away poor people's land. Poor people's land, you gone out there 14 pieces of land, you take it away because you don't had no use for it. When you take someone's land, when you take it by way of acquisition, you must have a public purpose that you're going to use it for. So there was no plans because they had no consultation with nobody. They didn't tell them what they want to take their land to do. They just went and take it. And it seemed as though he burned them so bad they went and concocted a story about lands now. They even went over to Westbury and said they're going to the court to get the first title for those lands over there that they had no connection to. They were not paying no lease. They were not paying nothing. Lo and behold, the Nevis Housing and Land already had title. And the title, the parent title is sitting down there at Scotia, down at Social Security, as collateral for a mortgage that was taken from Social Security. But this Bajon, as they say, a Bajon, say he got in court. And then when he realized, because he said, let's who come, he said, let's who come if you want to come. Well, I didn't have to go. A simple letter would have done the trick. And then sometime after, I hear a video come out with person bawling, say, Zoo, come for the keys. Mark Bradley, give up. Oh my goodness. You don't have to make no noise with these people, you know. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And I've always gone the right way because from what I was told when I was a young man coming up, do the right thing because it's the only thing to do. And I have nothing to hide and nothing to run away from here in the island of Nevis. That's why I bounce to Charleston like Energizer Bunny. Bounce into Charleston, I can hold my head up high in any area here on the island of Nevis because you know what? I've done what I had to do based on the mandate that was given to me by the people. So when you hear all of these foolishness, I have to say, but you see that NRP out there? It's the worst example of a party to ever put in government. And I say that bluntly and I say it with no water in my mouth, right? What happened in December, that fiasco that they had, is an example of what we should run away from and shun them accordingly. Because listen, the confusion that ensued after that election of 2022, pure confusion would have been in the island of Nevis right now. Because you hear them making up things? Okay, more things would have been made up too. And that is why I'm so happy that we have a courthouse. Because they're talking about Indian Castle. The Indian Castle Fruit Orchard is one of the best investment that the island of Nevis would have seen in agriculture here on the island of Nevis. And I say that with no water in my mouth. And why I say that? That piece of land, 35 acres were down there. They had some bun up looking cotton down there, cotton dead. That is the investment that NRP would have made under the brightest scholars in this place. Minister Bright, Permanent Secretary Bright, everybody bright. And all they produced for us was some bun up dead cotton down there. Invested some monies down there and not a thing to show for it. But let me give you an idea about what is going on down there and what I will tell the people of Nevis in terms of an investment. And I'm going off script, but I'm talking. While the cotton was on that ground down there, or planted down there, and I want to go down there and do a valuation of that 35 acres, I'll say roughly I'll value it at about 150,000 per acre. About 150,000. Because even though the bun up cotton was there, they know what nothing, so you just value the land. So nothing was down there, right? So at 150,000, you can say safely, you're looking at about $5 million. Those lands were valued at. Since we have gone down there and invested time and energies down there, planted coconut trees, guava trees, passion fruit, bananas, apple, avocado, mango trees, all type of fruit trees down there. About 12 or 13 different type of fruit trees down there. Well over 10,000 fruit trees down on that property. I will say, if I were to do a valuation of that property now, but property valued at about $10 to $15 million, you know. As simple as that. I tell you, if you were to sell the beer land, value the beer land, that's about $5 million, just over $5 million. After the investment was made, you're looking at between $10 to $15 million down there is valued. Let's say an investor come in here tomorrow, or somebody from Nevis say, I want to buy that property. You're selling everything, you know, because you're looking at the future value of that property. You have a current value, you have future value. I haven't even looked at the future value, because I am saying to the people of Nevis that when you see production starts down there, especially jelly, I have said before, if 2,000 trees are producing just about $1,000 worth of jelly water per month, you're looking at about $2 million per month. And that's 2,000 out of the 4,000 trees that jelly trees that are planted down there. Huge investment. And you know why they're upset? They never had it in them. They never thought of it. They don't have the capacity to think like that. That business mind, they don't have it. They may have a business mind, but all the business they have touched is failure. They have failed in all. But that establishment down there is going to produce, and it's a revenue producing project it's going to be. CCM don't think small, you know. CCM don't think small, CCM think big. What we have done, have produced and continue to produce. So Indian Castle is one of those sites that is in demand. And I hear some NRP people has go carry water down there for some of the workers. You know, they're looking new, so they carry water down there. Carry down the water. I was saying to the workers down there, be on your P's and Q's. But me here they go down there all the time carrying the water and having conversations. So I news them a look. But anyway, if you want to give them news and they twist up the news, then twist it up and let them find themselves under the clock. But put that aside, let's get back on track. But that investment is one that has some future value that the people of Nevis, the island of Nevis, will certainly benefit from. Not only that, you know, I take some licks as well for the Wally Water Taxi facility. And you know, I was doing some rough calculation, because I said last week just over 145,000 people would have embarked and disembarked over there. If half of those persons were paying $5 to depart, you're looking at almost $500,000 NASPA has collected thus far for the year. I'm not talking about last year. I'm not talking about the year before. I'm just talking about this year. If about half of those persons, you're almost looking at about $400,000, $500,000. But then you have to add on docket fees. Not only that, if you look at the operators of those water taxis, with 145,000 people plus moving back and forth from Oahu to Reggae Beach. You're looking at in excess of $6 million have been collected by those operators, you know, for the year. $6 million. And not only that, there are other amenities that are being bought and exchanged, or whatever the case might be. It is an income generating project that the concerned citizens movement would have invested in. We invested just about $6 million thereabout. Just about $6 million. When you add the cost of the property plus the construction of the pier, bathroom facility and other things, you're just about $6 million, because the pier and the property would have run somewhere around $5.5 million, and some more monies are being spent now to finish the building. So we're well within what we indicated to the general public that we would have gotten from the SIDF to spend over there. But look at the returns. Look at the returns. Both owners, I'm calculating, have collected just about $6 million, you know. That is significant. Those are monies that have been plowed back into the economy here in Nevis. And sometimes we talk about economy, oh, the economy ain't doing good, but there are certain things that are placed into the economy, that are added to the economy, that is a part of the overall picture. There are sections or portions of the economy that we tend to not look at. We use the broad term economy, but this is something that we can say adds to the economy. You have work, employment, that is. You have parts and goods that have to be bought, gasoline, oil, and all those things. Where are they bought? They're bought right here. So those things are, well, it's like you talk about in economics multiplier effect. $1 spent, $5 spent, $30 spent, and then it's multiplied, because that $30 go back into the economy, into some other business place. They then buy products to replenish what they sell, and so it goes. So when they get up and they talk, people need to just pull back and think for yourself, because all you'll get from the other side is pure negativity. Because we know they don't like Nevis to start with. They don't like Nevis people. They think they're bullies, so they want to say things and get on in a kind of way, talking all kind of profanity on the radio every time they get on the radio. And that is the thing that we don't want in the society. We don't want that in our communities. We don't want that in our government, because you'll never hear the Honorable Mark Brantley, as the Premier of Nevis, use any strong language anyway here on any radio station or on Facebook or anywhere. God bless him, because he has always been a decent person in terms of how he conducts himself and how he communicates with the people of Nevis. The same thing with all of the other ministers, Minister Evelyn, Minister Brandt, and Minister Nisbet, and all those, Minister Libert, all of them. That is how we were taught, and that is how we have understood that we have to conduct ourselves in public. And that is what we don't want in Nevis. You know, I talk to people all the time, and people say, Lord, we dodge a bullet in December. Not only we have been saying it, but those who would have come out from among NRP, and the same thing they say. So when you hear these things, listen, there are good things happening in Nevis, because everything that is bad comes out of the mouth of NRP. Listen, let me go back in history a little bit. Someone reminded me the other day. You see that, what do you call it, the tender pier down there in Charlestown? We used to call it the finger pier. When it was being built by the concerned citizens movement, they said, the next hurricane come, they're going to wash it down, mash it up, blow it down, whatever the case might be. Look at the pier down there now. When we got some monies in 2015 from the federal government, the first thing I told the Ministry of Finance, let us extend the pier. Let us go ahead and put a platform, a concrete platform, so when our guests come off of that those cruise ship and the tender boat come up to the pier, they can disembark in a safe way. Go down there and have a look at it. When you're going to St. Kitts next time, stand up on the main pier and look across to the same tender pier that they say would have washed away in no time. It down there standing up still. That's NRP for you. Yeah? And as a matter of fact, I believe some time ago Caribbean Queen had to dock at that, you know. And the same NRP people, them step off. Just like they're stepping off of the water taxi facility over there. Every day, they're stepping high and mighty. But I love it. It belongs to all of us. Step on it, stamp on it, walk on it, do whatever you want. It's ours. But make sure you pay your money. But I say that that was an example of something that NRP cry foul and say, Lord, you wash me. But he's still down there. The same thing with, you see that government house up there? It was built in 1906 thereabout. The CCM started the reconstruction or renovation of that in 2006. NRP come in and they abandoned the work. You know why? They were not happy with the Governor General, the Deputy Governor General at the point in time. It seems as though they had a problem with him. They put him over in a rented property, left him there for 6.5 years. We came back into government and I said, well, this NRP can't be the love Nevis, can't be the love the sentimental value of those properties like the government's house. 1906, it was built. And there's some significant history behind it. How could you throw your history down the drain like that? You can't love Nevis if you're going to trample on your history like that. So, wood was bought. Green Heartwood is sat down there for 6.5 years in the weather. But those were good wood. We were able to come in to government. And I said to the cabinet, just get me the money. And let us go and renovate the building. We did so. And look at it. I passed it there just a while ago. And I'm so happy when I see our current Deputy Governor General go in and out of that property. It is what it's for. It's like a state building. And if you have any class, and if you have any love for Nevis, you couldn't let that property sit there and go down the drain. 1906. How many persons are alive today? None from 1906. The architecture that we see there is second to none. Beautiful architecture. Those are the things that you embrace, and those are the things that you cherish, and those are the legacies that you want to leave behind. Not no noise. Noise don't get us anywhere. So I came in, and like I said, I was not making any noise before. I was always working. So we did the renovation of that particular building. And so it behooves me to speak about these things, because when it's all said and done, everything that we have tried to do as a party in government to move Nevis forward, we always hear all of these negativity. We have started to hear a lot of negative talks about the airport, the proposed airport expansion and development, and you'll hear them soon again to talking negativity. But listen, the last time anything was done at that airport in terms of any expansion or development was done by the Concerned Citizens Movement way back in 2002, thereabout, over 20 years ago. And the Concerned Citizens Movement will be the party to address the concerns out there by having that airport further developed so that we can have airlift out of Nevis. And then hear them say, oh, CCM haven't talked to any landowners, CCM bullying people out of their land and all kind of foolishness. Listen, we're not like the NRP, that go and grab people land without even telling them they're coming for it. We understand the sentimental value and the attachment to these lands by the people of Nevis, and we're willing to negotiate, which is what we're doing. And so all of the talk about the airport expansion and all of the protests. So let's get serious now. Let's look at this. So we know the NRP will never do any expansion of Van Sammer International Airport, because they said so long as Van Sammer name is on that airport, they will do nothing about it. When the airport was up and running and flights were coming in, those who were in charge went and said, let me strike. Let me pull down the airport. We're going to strike. Jump on a plane, went to New York somewhere, and then called back and strike is on. But the good people who work, they tell themselves, listen, I got family to feed. I got things to do. Now, I'm not join nobody with no strike when they don't want to stand up front. There are some of them like that, They trust stone and hide their hand. So when they call for a strike, the people who are working there say, me? He could stop there with the foolishness and go away going, me I go walk. And work they did. And that is why when people tell you to do certain things, let them go up front. Tell them go up front. Let me see how much man you be. Yeah? Put that aside. We are going to seek to develop that airport. We're making some progress. And as we have said to the people of Nevis, when we have all of the necessary things in place, we will come to the general public, and we're moving straight ahead. Because Nevis will see its glory days when that airport is further developed. And I see that we'll get flights from all over the world right into Van Sammer International Airport. You know why? That water taxi facility, when persons who were the negative persons were saying it is rubbish to build a pier, they didn't see and didn't have the vision that we had, because you see what is happening now. I am telling you, build that airport or extend that runway and improve the facility, and they'll come. They will come. Because Nevis is a sought after place. You ain't hear what Neil Lang say? Neil Lang said, Nevis have my heart. God bless you, Neil. And with that, you ruffled a lot of feathers, you know, but don't worry about that. The feathers you ruffled are those who have no love for Nevis, who don't want to see Nevis develop, who don't want all of those celebrities to come, but they glorify other islands, you know, like other islands who are seeing some growth or some influx, they're glorifying them. But when people speak good about Nevis, and many have come and have spoken well about Nevis, those who don't want to see good for Nevis will always have a problem and a difficulty with that. But that little line or quotation from Neil Lang, I believe, can be used over and over again. Neil Lang has said, Nevis has her heart. And you know what, Neil? We're going to cherish your heart. We're going to spend time and make sure we don't destroy your heart. Because as Nevis is your heart, Nevis is in your heart, we're going to protect it and ensure that we can realize what is best for this island. And some will be angry, some won't be able to deal with it, and that is their problem, but we'll continue to do what we can to protect this beloved island of ours. So everything negative, we build a road. They talk about the roads that we build, and they have a lot to say. And I always say to the NRP, if you were in government, wouldn't you have built the same roads? So if the people in Butlers call for the road, what you'll say? You're not building none? If the road from Cotton Ground to Newcastle was in a state of disrepair when you got in, you wouldn't have built it? If, for example, up in Braziers, people are asking for roads, you wouldn't have built it? And if, for example, you don't have the cash to build the road, you wouldn't have gone to borrow it? I have to ask these questions because when you hear people talking, you wonder if these people talking from a position of common sense. Because when it's all said and done, infrastructural development of any island has to be done, and it is a part of the development of the island, and it speaks well to anyone who comes to the island of Nevis and meet an infrastructure which is well intact and looking beautiful. Imagine a tourist coming and land at Van Sammer International Airport and heading down to Charlestown or coming to Charlestown, and all they're doing is dodging pothole, dropping in pothole. That would be the last visit they'll make to Nevis. The very last visit. The first and the last. So now you get off of the sea bridge, heading to Charlestown. Oh, marvelous road. You're coming from St. Thomas or somewhere, Antigua, and get onto a rental vehicle or taxi, coming to Charlestown. Oh my goodness, beautiful roads. And you know, what is even more interesting is that they're probably coming from a country where the roads aren't that good, you know. I have always heard the first impression count. Make your first impression count, because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So when people come to Nevis and they disembark at Van Sammer, first impression, that counts. When they disembark down there at the Wally Water Taxi Facility, first impression. Don't have to make a second impression. Go down to the sea bridge, come down to Charlestown, looking at our marvelous waterfront, first impression. Let your first impression count, because you never get a chance to make a first impression again. And that is what we're thinking in the Concerned Citizens Movement, as a government and as a party in government that manages the affairs of Nevis. And so, the things you won't hear the NRP say that we have been doing, and we have been doing well. For example, a few months ago, it was back in 2022, as a matter of fact, September of 2022, the Premier of Nevis would have talked about the non-established workers retirement scheme. That's a wonderful initiative. In the past, non-established workers would have gone home with nothing other than some gratuity or some monies they would have gotten as they leave. But now, once you'd have spent 10 years and even up to 15 years, you're going home with a pension. You're going home with a gratuitous payment and also a pension. That is huge. And the NIA or the CCM-led NIA must be commended. The Premier of Navies must be commended because, listen, we lead and others follow. And people know what I'm talking about because this initiative is one for the first in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And that is a beautiful thing. People must be taken care of. So all of the negativity that is out there, there are good things happening on Nevis. And that is what I'll come here to talk about all the time. Good things are happening in Nevis. We always say something good is happening in Nevis. It's always happening under the CCM. And no matter how much negativity they come with, they could cry foul, they could talk about water every day. They can talk about electricity, talk about all these things, because when they had a chance to manage these things, I am telling you, their incompetence was on display. Nevlek is a good example of an NRP that lacked competence to let all the engine run down to nothing and almost put Nevis in pitch darkness. Look at Nevis now. Look at the electricity service. Look at what is happening. When you flick on your switch, 99.1% of the time or 99.5% of the time you have electricity, unless Nevle could have put out a service notice right here on Van or on Facebook that they are doing maintenance work in a certain area here on the island of Nevis. As engine goes, there are failures from time to time. We have that happening from time to time, but not as often. But all in all, we can say that all of us can say that the electricity supply here on Nevis, since the inception of the Concerned Citizens Movement, once again in 2013, have been par excellent, above and beyond what it was before. But not only that, earlier this week, was it earlier this week? There was a graduation ceremony held. 24 students would have graduated, now can speak the Chinese language, Mandarin. This is an initiative that is nowhere in the sub-region. Nevis is leading the way in this particular area, and I want to thank once again the resident ambassador, Ambassador Michael Lin, and the Republic of China, Taiwan, and his people, and the tutors who would have come here, and the Premier of Nevis, the cabinet of Nevis, for the effort in ensuring that this particular initiative was brought to bear here on the island of Nevis. So we have 2 batches have graduated thus far, but this last one was 24 students. I want to congratulate all of them. You know what this does? It certainly broadened the horizon for these persons. If they were to travel tomorrow, go to Taiwan, to China, to any country that speaks Mandarin, they can communicate. If Chinese come here and they're not proficient in the English language, they can help translate, and they can do it for a fee. If there's a court hearing down there at the Theodore Hobson QC building, and it involves a Chinese national, the court will call upon one of these students to come down and translate. You understand what is happening? It adds to the efficiency and the proficiency of this island in terms of us being on the cutting edge and a modern community where we can embrace one and all and ensure that we're providing this service to all who comes. And so this is a major accomplishment. And anyone out there, by my head, can't take too many things at this time, so I don't even know if I can take it on. But those of you who are young still, those of you who have a future ahead of you, this is a time when you hear these classes are coming up. Take advantage of them. Study those who are talking negatively. Take advantage, because you never know where you'll find yourself in this world. You never know when you'll be called upon to offer the services and to display the knowledge that you have. Go ahead and embrace these things. The government is working on your behalf. The CCM continue to work every day on your behalf. There are challenges, yes. There are difficulties, yes. But when it's all said and done, in spite of all that, through the challenges, through the difficulties, there are good things happening here on the island of Nevis, and this is one of them. The non-established workers initiative, the pension plan, that is one of them. The only water taxi over there, that is one of them. It's the Newcastle police station. I don't care what they say about fire truck can't fit. Those but police officers and also fire officers who will occupy that quarter, the fire section of it, are living in a much more comfortable environment. And when you sleep well at night, it means that you're well refreshed and recharged to go out and do your duties. They sleep under air condition. There were some difficulties out there, but that has been solved. They sleep under air condition every night, and so they sleep well. And when you're well rested, you go on the beaten path and you run up and down the whole of St. James, within the district that you are assigned, to make sure that you're protecting and serving the people who you're charged to protect and serve. So all of these negativity, who want to listen them, but there are times when you have to keep negative things out of your thought. Let positive things flow in, and do not let nobody tell you things about in Nevis. Because I'm going to say this much: if a fete is kept tomorrow, you'll see your nails being done, hair being done, you'll see clothes being bought, you'll see people fetting and frolicking, drinking and having a good time. So it therefore means that things are not as bad, and nowhere as bad as some will say. If things bad for them, they better get up out of their lazy boho and go find work to do. Because there are opportunities out there for everyone, including myself, you, whoever is listening. Opportunities are out there. So get up off your lazy behind. All of you who got doctorate and say you're bright, stop look at the government purse, because you will never get a chance to put your hand on it. And I mean that 100%, because the people of Nevis understand what is going on. And they understood the mistake that could have happened in December. And they have resigned themselves to the fact that that could never happen again. So those of you who were waiting, you go wait long. Wait long. Because when it's all said and done, in the next 5 years, we'll see another mandate being given to the Concerned Citizens Movement, because the people of Nevis understand a good government and a good party in government when they experience one. And I've said before, if somebody tell you who they are, take them at their words. But when they show you who they are, you better believe them. And NRP showed us the worst display of a government between 2006 and 2013, January 2013. And once they would have shown you that, you better stay far from them. When they come and tell you NRP best for Nevis, tell them NRP best to keep from. Ladies and gentlemen, I've had my hour. It seems like I'm running out of time. Oh my goodness, this hour goes by fast. So I want to thank my technician there for her assistance, because of course she interjected one time and gave me Nicola's name. Thank you. I would have forgotten that. And also I want to thank Von Radio for allowing me to come here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. to have this interaction and this interface with our people here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, but more so this beloved island of Nevis. It's always my pleasure to come and spend some time with you. As I always say, I come and I talk during my lunch hour, and I still want something to eat after, so I'm going to go and get something to eat. And also, in closing, I want to wish everyone a safe and wonderful weekend. Take care of yourself. Go out and exercise. Do what you have to do. Go to church on Sunday. Most of all, be who you are and ensure that you're here through God's grace to serve this island moving forward as we face the new week to come. That has been my quota for today. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting Von Radio 860 AM and also 73.7. 93.7. You all need to put it on the board there so that I see it from time to time. I see 8:60 AM, but 93.7 on the frequency modulation band, FM they call it, so you can get them there as well, live and direct. So thank you for listening. It has been my pleasure being here, and continue to take care of yourself and have yourself a wonderful weekend. God bless, and God be with you always. Bye-bye.
and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and